Ladies and gentlemen, imagine a small nation, nestled between mighty neighbors, its land once fought over by kings and emperors, its people shaped by centuries of change, standing today as a beacon of stability and prosperity in Europe. That nation is Luxembourg, and today we find ourselves witnessing a moment of quiet yet profound transformation. The abdication of Grand Duke Henri, and the accession of his son, Grand Duke Guillaume. For over 2 decades, Grand Duke Henri has guided Luxembourg through an age of global uncertainty. His reign has been one of compassion and continuity, where tradition met progress with grace. Under his steady hand, Luxembourg strengthened its democratic institutions, embraced multiculturalism, and deepened its role in the European Union. He has stood not as a distant figure of royal authority, but as a unifying presence, dignified, thoughtful, and deeply human. His abdication, though anticipated, carries a poignancy that resonates across the generations of his people. And now, as the mantle passes to Guillaume, we see not an end, but an evolution. Young, educated, and globally minded, Guillaume steps forward as a monarch of a new age. His leadership promises innovation rooted in identity, a vision that honors the past while opening Luxembourg's future to the opportunities of a connected world. It is a torch passed not in haste, but in harmony, symbolizing a dynasty's commitment to service and its nation's unbroken line of faith. Yet to understand this moment, one must look beyond the present, deep into Luxembourg's history. Once a medieval stronghold, caught in the ambitions of Europe's empires, Luxembourg endured fragmentation, foreign rule, and reinvention. It has been shaped by wars, treaties, and alliances, and yet, like its ancient fortress walls, it has stood the test of time. Its people have carried forth a quiet strength, forging a nation defined not by conquest, but by coexistence. Today's transition reflects that same enduring spirit. As Henri steps back with dignity and Guillaume steps forward with purpose, Luxembourg reminds us that true power lies not in domination, but in stewardship, not in titles, but in the trust of a people. So let us not see this as the closing of a reign, but as the turning of a page, one written in continuity, resilience, and hope. The story of Luxembourg continues, as it always has, steady, sovereign, and shining quietly at the heart of Europe. A nation, though small in its borders, can hold within it the weight of centuries. And at times, a single decision can ripple through that history like wind through a forest canopy. The abdication of Grand Duke Henri is such a moment. It is not merely the formal passing of a crown, not just a constitutional act or royal tradition. It is the quiet turning of a page in the grand chronicle of Luxembourg's identity. For more than 2 decades, Henri has been more than a monarch. He has been a symbol of steadiness in a world that seemed to shift beneath its own feet. His departure marks not only the end of a reign, but the gentle closing of an era defined by dignity, empathy, and an almost poetic restraint. Under Henri's watch, Luxembourg has navigated the tremors of globalization, the evolving landscape of European unity, and the constant negotiation between heritage and modernity. Through economic expansion and social transformation, he stood not as an echo of the past, but as a bridge, linking the timeless grace of monarchy to the democratic pulse of a 21st century nation. His presence offered reassurance, a sense that amid the machinery of progress, there remained a human heart at the nation's center. The decision to step aside, then, is both an act of humility and wisdom. The recognition that leadership is not eternal, but cyclical, that every era must make way for the next. And so, Luxembourg finds itself at a quiet crossroads. Its people, deeply rooted in history, yet firmly facing the future, look upon this transition with reverence and reflection. It is in moments like these, understated, ceremonial, yet profoundly human, that a nation redefines what continuity means. This is not a rupture, but a rhythm. Not an ending, but a breath before the next phrase of a long and beautiful symphony. Henri's reign will be remembered as a study in equilibrium, a delicate harmony between progress and preservation, between the outer forces of globalization and the inner pulse of national identity. In an age when borders seemed to blur and cultures intermingled at an unprecedented pace, Luxembourg stood firm yet open, traditional yet forward-looking. And at the heart of this balance was Grand Duke Henri, a man who led not through spectacle, but through sincerity. His style of leadership was never one of grand declarations or sweeping reforms, but of quiet constancy, of being present when presence mattered most. Throughout his years on the throne, Luxembourg evolved from a modest European state into a global financial and diplomatic hub, a nation whose voice carried weight far beyond its size. Yet Henri ensured that the nation's rapid growth did not erode its soul. He fostered a spirit of compassion, reminding his people that prosperity must always walk hand in hand with humanity. Under his reign, the values of community, respect, and inclusivity became as integral to Luxembourg's identity as its castles and valleys. His engagement with social causes, from education to humanitarian work, reflected an empathy deeply rooted in service rather than ceremony. He stood as a moral compass in turbulent times. During economic uncertainty, political debates, and the shifting tides of Europe's unity, his approach was measured, patient, almost reflective of the landscape. He served steady hills, quiet rivers, and strong foundations. He seemed to understand that true leadership in a modern world is not about command, but about connection. It is about listening to the people, guiding them with calm assurance, and safeguarding the values that define a nation's heart. And so, Henri's legacy is not carved in monuments or marked by grand upheavals. It is felt instead in the stability of Luxembourg's institutions, in the gentle cohesion of its people, and in the enduring belief that compassion and balance are not signs of weakness, but of profound strength. In his reign, the world saw how a monarch could embody both tradition and tenderness, the quiet power of a leader who chose empathy over ego and unity over division. With the accession of hereditary Grand Duke Guillaume, Luxembourg enters a moment of renewal, not one of rupture, but of gentle evolution. His rise to the throne is the continuation of a lineage that has guided the nation through centuries of transformation. Yet it also marks the arrival of a voice attuned to the rhythms of a new age. Guillaume embodies the bridge between the enduring grace of the past and the vibrant energy of the present. His accession is not simply the transfer of duty, but the awakening of a new chapter, one shaped by the spirit of a generation that sees beyond borders, languages, and traditions, and into the shared humanity that binds us all. Guillaume's vision carries the pulse of modern Luxembourg, young, diverse, and profoundly international. Having studied and lived across Europe, he has come to understand that leadership today must extend beyond ceremony. It must resonate with the values of a connected world. His deep interest in sustainable development, education, and innovation speaks to a monarch aware of his era's great challenges: climate change, social cohesion, and the delicate balance between progress and preservation. Yet, like his father before him, Guillaume approaches these with humility, guided by the same respect for culture, faith, and compassion that has long defined his family's legacy. There is in him a quiet optimism, a belief that monarchy can still serve a purpose in the 21st century, not as a relic of history, but as a living symbol of continuity and conscience. He represents a generation unafraid of dialogue, eager to connect, and committed to finding harmony in diversity. To many, Guillaume's accession feels like the dawn of a fresh horizon, where tradition and technology, diplomacy and empathy walk side by side. In his hands rests not only the future of Luxembourg's monarchy, but the spirit of its people, steadfast yet curious, proud yet welcoming. As he steps forward into this new era, the world watches with anticipation, sensing that the Grand Duchy, under Guillaume's gaze, will continue to embody what it always has: a nation small in size, yet vast in vision. Luxembourg's history is like a finely woven tapestry, each thread a story of struggle, adaptation, and endurance, interlaced with the golden strands of diplomacy and unity. From its earliest days as a medieval fortress, perched upon the rocky promontory of the Alzette River, Luxembourg has stood as both a prize and a survivor, caught between the ambitions of Europe's great powers. Its strategic location made it a coveted jewel, sought by Burgundians, Habsburgs, Spaniards, French, and Prussians alike. Yet through centuries of occupation, division, and transformation, the Luxembourgish spirit endured, quiet but unyielding. This small land, often overshadowed by empires, learned not to dominate, but to endure, not to conquer, but to outlast. It was in this crucible of shifting borders and foreign rulers that Luxembourg's greatest strength was forged, its diplomacy. Long before it became a cornerstone of the European Union, Luxembourg understood the art of balance, of finding peace where others found conflict, and cooperation where others sought control. Its rulers, nobles, and citizens alike became masters of adaptation, preserving their culture while embracing the influences that passed through their gates. The fortress, once called the Gibraltar of the North, became more than a stronghold of stone. It became a fortress of identity, resilient, independent, and remarkably humane. In the centuries that followed, as the fires of revolution and war swept across Europe, Luxembourg transformed from a duchy of contested sovereignty into a nation of deliberate neutrality and quiet progress. Its people rebuilt not with grandeur, but with grace, valuing education, hard work, and social harmony above all. And when the 20th century brought the storms of 2 world wars, Luxembourg again found itself in the path of history's fiercest winds. Yet even in occupation, it never lost its sense of self. When peace returned, the Grand Duchy emerged not defeated, but determined, ready to take its place among Europe's architects of unity. Today, Luxembourg stands as one of the continent's most stable and prosperous nations, a thriving financial and cultural hub that carries the lessons of its past into the heart of its present. It is a nation that understands power not as dominance, but as dignity. Its voice in the European Union, though modest in volume, carries the resonance of centuries of wisdom, that resilience is not loud, solved, and strength does not always march. Sometimes it simply endures. Luxembourg's story, then, is not just one of survival, but of transformation. From fortress walls to diplomatic bridges, from contested borders to open collaboration. It is the story of a people who found their greatness not in empire, but in empathy, and who remind us still that even the smallest nations can shape the grandest destinies. The transition of power in Luxembourg is far more than a pageant of royal regalia or the solemnity of a ceremonial oath. It is the living heartbeat of a nation, a moment where history and the present meet, where the unbroken thread of identity stretches gracefully from one generation to the next. In a world so often defined by haste and upheaval, Luxembourg's monarchy offers something rare, a sense of continuity that feels both ancient and alive. This passing of the crown from Henri to Guillaume is not a break in the rhythm, but but a renewal of it, a seamless continuation of the story that began centuries ago, when Luxembourg first carved its place between empires and began to define itself not by conquest, but by constancy. Each transition within the Grand Ducal line has reflected the enduring spirit of its people. Adaptable, steady, and deeply rooted in the values that have guided Luxembourg through ages of change. From medieval dukes defending their lands to modern sovereigns, guiding a democratic nation, the monarchy has evolved alongside its citizens, reshaping itself to mirror the times while preserving the essence of its tradition. It is this quiet adaptability that defines Luxembourg's strength. The crown has never stood apart from the people. Rather, it has served as their reflection, their endurance, their civility, their belief in the future. Through wars, treaties, and waves of modernization, Luxembourg has maintained a rare equilibrium. The ability to embrace change without surrendering identity. The abdication of Henri and the accession of Guillaume is another verse in that long poem of balance, an affirmation that leadership, like life itself, must renew to remain meaningful. It is not the grandeur of the event that matters, but what it signifies, a reaffirmation of unity, of trust, and of an unspoken covenant between ruler and ruled. This transition is the embodiment of a truth that Luxembourg has lived for generations. That strength lies not in resistance to change, but in the wisdom to guide it. The crown may pass, faces may change, yet the spirit endures, woven through time like a golden thread in a timeless fabric. It binds past to present, and present to future, ensuring that Luxembourg remains what it has always been, a small nation with a vast heart, carrying forward its legacy of stability, humanity, and quiet, enduring grace. And so, as the echo of ceremony fades, and the mantle passes from one generation to the next, Luxembourg stands poised between memory and destiny, a nation both ancient and new. The abdication of Grand Duke Henri and the accession of Grand Duke Guillaume are not merely events in royal history. They are reflections of a deeper truth about the nation itself. That continuity need not resist change, and that progress can still honor tradition. From fortress walls to modern skylines, from the solemn vows of monarchs to the quiet faith of its citizens, Luxembourg's story endures. Calm, steadfast, and profoundly human. It reminds us that greatness is not measured by size or power, but by the grace with which a people carry their past into their future. As one era gently yields to another, the heart of Luxembourg beats on, resilient, compassionate, and eternally dignified, a testament to the enduring power of unity and the quiet majesty of continuity amid change.